Queen City News starts now.
Now at 8, the FBI says this is the killer of Charlie Kirk, caught on camera moments after firing the fatal shot.
The social media hate speech after the Kirk murder is on the rise. The Constitution protects what people say, but not what their employers may do.
In North Carolina, state lawmakers are calling for changes following the fatal stabbing of a woman on the Charlotte City light rail. But when will riders see any difference? Good morning, everyone. It is finally Friday. Welcome into the 8 o'clock hour of Queen City News. I'm Jason Harper.
I'm meteorologist Ted Fate with your pinpoint weather forecast. And I made a lot of friends this week, Jason. I got a lot of things to do this weekend now.
Oh, you got a lot of, did you get invited to a lot of picnics?
I got invited to a lot of picnics, cookouts, and movie nights, going out. You know when they put the big inflatables in the back?
Oh, yeah, that's the best this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, perfect weather for that. By the way, Julian's off today. Annie will be back here at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
But let's talk about, look at this. As we look around the crowd, a couple different spots here, Ted. It's beautiful no matter where you are.
It is absolutely gorgeous. Traffic moving at a speed limit pace here over Independence Boulevard. That's good to see, too. Carolina blue skies over Gastonia. Good morning to you folks out in Monroe. And there's the Queen City in the distance from our tower camera in the top left-hand corner, kicking off this morning. Now, temperatures are sitting in the low 60s, warming up 2 degrees from this morning. Winds are calm. The sun's been up for about an hour, really just about 56 minutes, and we have those dew points still sitting in the upper 50s. So low 60s for Monroe into Charlotte. We're still in the 50s along that I-40 corridor. 40s on tap through Boone, low 50s, Jefferson. Sunshine dominates all the way through this afternoon where we get into the upper 70s. I'm looking at low 80s second half of the day. Highs will land at about 84 degrees. North-northeast wind settled in 5 to 10 miles per hour. We'll have a few clouds roll in, but I'll break down more of our forecast and what we can expect peak heating hours of the day coming up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Jason?
All right, Ted, thank you, sir. Let's take a look at our pinpoint traffic in our 8 o'clock hour. Volume, excuse me, a little lighter on Friday than normal, so that's nice, but there are still school buses out there, so don't be a distracted driver on this Friday morning as we look around the crowd. A couple of incidents, but none of these are causing major delays. Let's give you some drive times this morning. If you're coming in from Monroe, from the southeast part of the city, from Union County, and from Albemarle, down from Concord, for the most part, these stretches aren't too bad. Here's a look at Independence Boulevard with the sun up, looking good on their way into Uptown this morning. We're going to flip it and reverse it. Let's go to the other side of the city. If you're coming in from Gaston County up 85, not too bad. Coming down from Lake Norman up from Rock Hill on 77, all those stretches are looking nice. Here's a look at the state line. Folks merging right near Carowinds at about 65 miles an hour. I like it. I love it. This is what we want. More of it. We'll give you another look at your traffic coming up around 8:30.
The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing. We also continue to implore the public to support this investigation and come forward with any information. We are truly hopeful that this video and new photos will lead to even more tips.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox there is asking for help from the public as legions of Utah police and federal agents search for the killer of Charlie Kirk, the conservative political activist who was shot and killed on the campus of Utah Valley University during an event on Wednesday. The governor, accompanied by FBI Director Kash Patel, spoke to reporters briefly last night. The video released shows the subject running on what they described as an upper building, climbing off the edge, you can see right there. Dropping down into the grass, the suspect then runs across a grassy area, across the road, and then into the woods. They say that they used this video to find a firearm in the wooded area. They also showed enhanced pictures of their person of interest. They say the FBI has gotten more than 7,000 leads and tips, the most since the Boston Marathon bombing. They're asking for more, though. The governor also shared a statement as if it was from Kirk himself.
I think Charlie said it best, that when things get bad, we should put our phones down and spend a little time with our families.
The governor went on to say there is a tremendous amount of misinformation going around, adding bots from all over the world are trying to encourage violence in the wake of the shooting. He also reiterated the need for tips. The governor closed by repeating his promise to pursue the death penalty in this case. There's also video obtained by TMZ showing what appears to be the suspect before the shooting, walking through a neighborhood right near the campus of Utah Valley University. Again, anyone with information is asked to call the FBI. Social media reactions to the shooting continue to fuel political discussions. Some comments are drawing the attention now of employers. Queen City News anchor Savannah Rudisell joins us with why jobs are on the line, Savannah, for people even here in the Carolinas.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. Teachers, elected leaders, and a cable news contributor could lose their jobs for comments made online just within 24 hours after the conservative activist's death. One of the confirmed firings was made within the Panthers organization. Now, the team let go of a communications coordinator. The former employee referenced a now viral comment that Kirk made in 2023 in front of a Turning Point USA crowd, saying that some gun deaths were, quote, worth it in order to protect Americans' right to bear arms. Panthers officials said in a statement that, quote, the views expressed by our employee are their own and do not represent those of the Carolina Panthers. We do not condone violence of any kind. Now, 2 area teachers are also facing consequences for similar online comments. A Lake Norman Charter High School math teacher is on administrative leave, and a Gaston County teacher is under a board investigation. Constitutional law and free speech experts say the law protects individuals from government backlash, but not from workplace decisions.
There is no constitutional protection when your private employer tells you that you cannot speak or sanctions you for something that you said in social media or in a protest somewhere.
MSNBC political analyst Matthew Dowd lost his spot with the network for remarks seeming to blame Kirk's, quote, hateful words as the cause for the, quote, hateful action. He and network executives have apologized for those comments. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate that. We want to go now live to our Washington correspondent, Vinay Simlot, who is in D.C. Vinay, the assassination of Charlie Kirk has many lawmakers there on Capitol Hill concerned about their own safety.
Yeah, Jason, the mood is uneasy here on Capitol Hill. Some members of Congress had to cancel events over the weekend. Speaker Mike Johnson says members of Congress are worried after that assassination on Wednesday. The FBI says security camera video shows the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk jumping off of a roof and running away shortly after the shooting in Utah on Wednesday. Federal investigators also released photos, they say, of a person of interest. President Donald Trump says he considered Kirk a friend.
He was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond.
But violence and threats of violence against public figures continue. U.S. Capitol Police responded to a bomb threat at the Democratic National Committee headquarters on Thursday. The Capitol Police Chief says the threat on 9/11 and following Charlie Kirk's assassination had police concerned. The DNC says the threat was found to not be credible.
We will continue to be in a heightened security posture with them.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York and Nancy Mace from South Carolina both announced they're canceling events this weekend concerned about safety.
If you are vocal, your life is at risk.
Speaker Mike Johnson says more lawmakers have talked to him about security since the shooting on Wednesday.
It's a big concern of all of them and their spouses back home and their families.
And the FBI is offering $100,000 for anybody who helps them identify or arrest the shooter. Now, the FBI says it believes that the person is a college-aged man, and investigators say they have recovered the weapon. They say a high-powered bolt-action rifle. Jason, we should get some more details in a little under an hour as the FBI will brief again.
Yeah, let's hope that helps. Vinay, as far as lawmaker security goes, we know that Congress voted to increase the amount of money that members can spend on their own security. Have we seen that help?
Yeah, Nancy Mace, the congresswoman who you just heard from, says that she does not think it's enough money. This pilot program is what they're calling it, raised the amount of money from $150 a month for each member of Congress for security to now $5,000 a month. But Mace says if you're paying for security for an entire month, $5,000 is not enough. And Speaker Johnson says if every member of Congress were to get around-the-clock Capitol Police security, the Capitol Police would have to hire 5,000 new officers, and he says that's not in the budget.
All right, Vinay Simlot live in D.C. Vinay, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Time is 8:09 right now. Word from Hollywood this morning is that Comedy Central has taken an episode of its controversial cartoon South Park off the air after complaints about how it mocked Charlie Kirk. The Hollywood Reporter says that Kirk himself saw the scenes featuring character Eric Cartman, which was supposed to re-air as a repeat earlier this week. In a TikTok video, he called the episode hilarious and said, quote, "We have a good spirit about being made fun of." But according to reports, that wasn't how a right-wing radio host and a staffer at Turning Point USA saw it. And so the cable outlet decided to remove that episode from rotation. In Raleigh, lawmakers are calling for tougher crime policies to help prevent senseless killings, like the one on Charlotte's light rail system that took the life of a Ukrainian refugee. Republican leaders say that they're writing new legislation aimed at keeping people safe. Reporter Mary Smith tells us what they will consider when they return to work next week.
Senator Phil Berger was joined by House Speaker Justin Hall and former chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley. Senator Berger and House Speaker Hall say they plan to introduce legislation once they head back to session later this month. While nothing is concrete yet, Senator Berger says they will propose a package of, quote, common sense policies to more effectively tackle crime in North Carolina. They announced they're working towards this legislation after the murder of 23-year-old Irina Zarutska. DeCarlos Brown Jr. is accused with stabbing her to death on a commuter train in Charlotte last month. The crime has caused a debate about safety, mental health, and scrutiny over his criminal history. In January, he was charged with misuse of 911, but he was released on written promise that he'd appear for his next court date. Many are questioning that decision because Brown has a history of arrests and convictions, including 2 violent felonies.
We need to keep repeat offenders in jail. We need to end cashless bond. We need to hold, or cashless bail. We need to hold activist judges and magistrates accountable. We must deliver justice for Irina and the countless families across our state that have fallen victim to a justice system that does not support them and does not keep them safe. And the bill we will bring forward later this month will play a vital role in that, but it's just the first step.
We're also going to look at dealing with issues when folks are charged with crimes who have obvious mental health issues, making sure that magistrates are taking that into consideration.
In response to today's press conference, Senate Democratic leader Sidney Batch released a statement saying, quote, "I can think of no greater tribute to the life of Irina Zarutska than to make sure that what happened to her isn't allowed to happen again. That starts with making real investments in local public safety and mental health," end quote. And House Democratic leader Robert Reeves also released a statement saying in part, quote, "I am willing to work across the aisle to forge a consensus if we are serious about real solutions."
And that was Mary Smith reporting from Raleigh. We will continue to follow all the developments in the aftermath of the light rail stabbing. You can find our complete coverage of this story on our website. Just go to qcnews.com, or you can go to our Queen City News Plus app, or Queen City News on our YouTube channel. May-Kay?
All right, attention white-knuckled flyers, tighten your seatbelts. An uptick in air turbulence recently sent passengers to the hospital. I'm May-Kay Bueller. Coming up, what investigators say contributed to that really rough ride. Jason?
And stay with us for our next half hour as we continue to look at how students at local campuses are reacting with grief to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Ted?
And we're looking ahead to a beautiful weekend. Low 80s Saturday, mid 80s on Sunday. Dry both afternoons and cool both overnights. We do talk about rain chances coming back next week. I'll let you know when and how much rain we could expect here coming up in the next 10 minutes. You're watching Queen City News Now, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte, with a live look over Independence Boulevard. We'll be right back.
All right, take your Dramamine. Here we go. Annoying bumps, unexpected jolts, frayed nerves, unbelted passengers thrown out of their seats. Just more examples of air turbulence in the news. Our chief transportation correspondent and pilot, May Beeler, joins us with an update on a bumpy ride she previously reported on that sent passengers to the hospital. May, what's the latest?
That video is scary.
Yeah.
That's disturbing. Wear your seatbelt. Oh my goodness. Well, the National Transportation Safety Board has just come out with a preliminary report on the Delta Airlines Flight 56 we talked about a few weeks ago from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam. On July 30th, the flight experienced rough turbulence, so rare it broke bones and caused multiple injuries to passengers and crew, forcing an emergency landing in Minneapolis. Now, according to the NTSB's early findings, the turbulence caused significant vertical acceleration. Well, what does that mean? That's where you feel G-forces, like you're being pushed down in your seat or lifted up out of it, kind of like a roller coaster ride. The report says there were rapid altitude changes, and according to Av Webb, investigators noted the flight crew had discussed the potential for turbulence in their pre-flight briefing, and upon takeoff and climb out, they noticed only light cirrus clouds. Now, what does that mean? Those clouds typically signal fair, stable conditions, but at an altitude of 37,000 feet, the plane's autopilot disengaged. The Airbus experienced rapid climbs and descent cycles lasting 2.5 minutes. The plane pitched up 10 degrees, then down 5 degrees, throwing unbelted passengers out of their seats, hitting their heads on the ceiling, tossing loose items about the cabin. Pilots declared an emergency. There was minor damage to the plane's interior.
God, that is so
That's
scary.
really scary.
Was there not a warning for the weather or time to tell the cabin, hey, make sure you got your seatbelts fastened?
Well, in their pre-flight briefing, there are weather reports, and we call them PIREPs, NOTAMs, SIGMETs, AIRMETs, and a SIGMET is kind of a weather report that's warning you of convective activity or bad turbulence. And apparently they did have that report. They went anyway.
Yeah.
Well, which they do. I'm telling you, airliners go anyway. They're not going to fly you into a thunderstorm, though.
Sure,
They'll
sure.
go around it. Sometimes it's hard to know where that turbulence is.
Is there any way as a passenger that, I mean, clearly we're not the one in control, but is there any way that passengers can avoid turbulence?
Well, obviously wear your seatbelt.
Yeah,
it's not going to avoid the airplane going through there. It's going to avoid you going through the air. But up at altitude, it's really up to your pilots to kind of find the smooth air. So we have pilot reports or PIREPs. That would be a pilot in front of the plane giving a report about what the conditions are like there. So if I'm flying behind them, I can hear that report from ATC and say, let's go to a different altitude. Let's go around it so we can avoid it. Now, what can really a passenger do? At low altitudes, as the sun heats the earth, you get thermals, bumpy conditions, and that's typically in the morning or later in the day. So as a passenger, you can book your flight early in the morning before the sun heats up the earth. Now, this is assuming the weather's good. We're not talking about a cold front or bad weather moving through, but heat of the day, as the sun heats the earth, thermals, and it's kind of bumpy. I'm sure you've experienced that down low.
Yeah. All right. So what's going on with the investigation? Is it over? Or are they still looking?
It takes about a year.
Yeah. Right.
So we've got the NTSB, the FAA, we've got Airbus, everybody going in on that to see what can be done about this. That was horrible to think all those people were injured. Again, wear your seatbelt. It sounds awfully simple, but if you wear your seatbelt, you're not going to hit the ceiling or fly out. But if it happens when you're in the restroom, hopefully, typically you always wear your seatbelt. They keep it on unless you're going to go use the restroom. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what most people do. I feel like that's what I do.
Yeah.
Even if I know I'm going to be, not doing anything or sleeping for 2 hours, I just keep it on just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Because I mean, even though you've got all the greatest equipment in the world, turbulence can still sneak up.
It can still sneak up.
Yeah.
And experts say because of climate change, fasten your seatbelt. It's going to get worse.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
And more frequent.
Okay.
So fasten the seatbelt just to be safe.
I like that. And maybe book earlier in the day. All right,
Yeah.
good advice. Thank you, May. I appreciate that. The time is 8:20 right now on this Friday morning. Maybe it's a little early for nice cold beer this morning, but you know what? Today's the first day of Mechtoberfest in Loso. That's Lower South End for those that might be visiting or new to the area. There's going to be German cuisine. By the way, we're looking at OMB. That is Old Mecklenburg Brewing, one of the oldest around town. They're going to have beer garden games, German food, music, everything you can imagine, and Das Boot. That's my favorite. That is their glass, boot-shaped glass that you can take home with you as more. So that kicks off at 11 o'clock and goes through the weekend. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Ted Phaeton this morning. Ted, we've already talked. We know how you feel about pumpkin spice lattes early in August. Now we're talking Oktoberfest in September.
Yeah, a little early. A little early, but I'm not going to judge if you choose to indulge this weekend. I mean, just look at the forecast. How can you not look at that with those 80s and, of course, low 80s heading into the start of the weekend? Mid-40s, Boone, Jefferson in the low 50s. We'll hold on to those mid-60s over Charlotte into Monroe. So we are looking pretty nice for that Oktoberfest and even through the weekend, any outdoor festivities that you might have. So mid-60s with clear skies, 9 a.m. By the time we get to the afternoon, we'll cross from the upper 70s into the low 80s. 80s on tap, second half of the day, clouds start to roll in. I think we'll land right near normal this time of year. Typically, we hit the mid-80s. That's what we'll hit for your Friday. So continuing to usher in those warm temperatures, mid-80s early next week before we cool down. Rain chances ramp back up, a 20 to 30% chance heading into the mid-portions of next week. I'm not looking at an abundant amount as of right now. Just some light spotty showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm possible heading into Wednesday and Thursday. We'll hone in on that forecast as next week approaches. In terms of our clouds and radar, mostly clear over the East Coast, not seeing much activity, high pressure in control continuing to build. We have, again, our wave coming off the west coast of Africa, which gives us a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. We're going to have the 7-day forecast holding on to those 80s all the way into early next week. Jason?
All right, Ted, thank you very much. We've got some breaking news coming into the newsroom this morning. President Trump this morning says the suspect involved in the assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk is now in custody. The president was on Fox and Friends earlier this morning and has said that they do have the suspect in custody. We, of course, are still waiting for official word from the FBI and other local law enforcement investigators, but this is a developing story. Again, President Trump was on Fox and Friends this morning saying they do have what they believe is the suspect in custody. As this develops throughout the morning, we will keep you updated on air and online as soon as we learn more. Stay with us. You're watching Queen City News.
Hello, I do. Good morning. Okay. Okay. Okay.
time is 8:26. How about some good news this morning? Mortgage rates just had the biggest weekly drop in more than a year. Well, it might not all be good news. Turns out inflation climbed last month and grocery prices jumped as well. Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and more. Jane, it's all about balance. Good Friday morning to you.
It is. Good Friday morning to you too, Jason. And futures are pointing slightly higher this morning. Could be a kind of a quiet day. We've had quite a week. Stocks did hit record highs yesterday after that consumer inflation number came in about as expected. So that just basically reaffirmed investors' hopes and thoughts that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates next week. The Dow's at more than 600 points. Now, grocery prices, though, did rise the most in August since 2022. And virtually all major grocery categories are higher than they were a year ago. Coffee up 21% over the past year. A lot of that is due to weather. Gas prices rose last month, but are still cheaper than they were a year ago. And mortgage rates tumbled this week, posting the largest weekly drop in a year. That's according to Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac says the average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is now 6.35%. So that's down from 6.5%. And that does also, we have also seen applications. So that includes refinancings. Those have also been on the rise as they've seen this drop in mortgage rates. Jason, back to you.
All right, Jane, we appreciate that. The market's open a little over an hour at 9:30. We will check in with you shortly after that. Thank you. In other business news this morning, despite its high price, a lot of us are still buying beef. Beef prices have soared 13.9% since just a year ago, yet we can't seem to get enough red meat. Analysts say the hikes can be explained by relentless demand and tight supply, with total U.S. cattle inventory at a 75-year low. Retailers say even with high prices, consumer demand for beef has been remarkably resilient. More changes for Southwest Airlines. CEO Bob Jordan said the company is looking at long-haul international flights and premium airport lounges as part of its turnaround strategy. The company has said that it's exploring new partnerships from all parts of the globe. Many of Southwest's recent pivots are aimed at wooing high-spending travelers. Jordan said the company ends up losing customers to other carriers because it currently does not fly to destinations like London or have premium airport lounges. Coming up next, an update on this morning's breaking news. President Trump says Charlie Kirk's suspected killer has been captured. We're going to update you on that investigation right after the break. You're watching Queen City News this Friday morning. We appreciate you being with us. We'll be back. We are following this breaking news this morning. President Donald Trump says the suspect involved in the assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk is now in custody with a high degree of certainty, is what he said. Earlier this morning, the president was on Fox and Friends and said that they do, again, with a high degree of certainty, they do have the suspect in custody. We are still waiting for official word by the FBI and other law enforcement investigators. This is video released by the FBI yesterday showing the possible suspect climbing off a higher elevated roof, then running into the woods where they found a weapon. This could have all led to the suspected shooter now being in custody. We're hearing there's a press conference live at 9 this morning. So as soon as we get more information, we will update you here on Queen City News and online at qcnews.com. In the meantime, let's get over to meteorologist Ted Phaeton on a nice start to the weekend, Ted.
Yeah, nice start so far. We have mostly clear skies here as our tower camera looks at the Queen City out of West Charlotte. Still looking nice and clear for the most part. Temperatures starting off in the 60s. Let's throw those temperatures on top of that tower camera. We're in the low 60s, calm winds, and dew point still in the upper 50s as we hold on to those low 50s. Jefferson, upper 40s through Boone. Starting to get out of the 50s along the I-40 corridor. I expect these temperatures to ramp up pretty quickly now that the sun's getting to work, getting us in the 60s, eventually in the 70s. Lunchtime, upper 70s, low 80s, heading into the peak heating hours of the day. I'm looking at a high of 84 degrees, north-northeast winds settling anywhere between 5 to 10 miles per hour. Backyard grilling forecast ushers in those low 80s, upper 70s. And overnight lows bottom out in what will be the low 60s, upper 50s, heading into your early morning hours on Saturday. Pollen count will still be medium to high. Keep that in mind. Ragweed, grass pollen, chenopods, all going to be something to watch out for. Mountain counties, low to mid 70s through the weekend into early next week as we ramp up those temperatures for our mountain counties. We'll have another check of that forecast coming up in the next 10 minutes. Jason?
All right, thank you very much, Ted. Appreciate that. Starting to have a little bit of a busy 8:30 half hour for pinpoint traffic. Although volume is typically lighter on a Friday, we will take it. A couple of issues that we do want to point out first. We've got about a dozen incidents that are not all accidents, and they're not all causing delays. But if you're in that area, it might just give you a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a headache this morning. The first one that we want to show you is just your drive times. If you're coming down from Concord, which is Cabarrus County, down 85 in from Albemarle, or up from Union County and Monroe, going to take you a little bit of time, but not too bad. Here's a look at inbound Independence. We like what we see as they're working their way into the heart of Uptown. Now, a couple of new incidents. Got a traffic problem, 77 southbound, right near the connector there. This is 75. You can see it's right near Bank of America Stadium and the John Belk Freeway, 277. So one of those lanes really slow if you're trying to work your way down. A little further out, 485 inner, between 77 and Pineville. We've got it, one of the lanes blocked there if you're trying to work your way from Pineville over to 77 inner there. Let's show you the drive times coming in from the other side of the city. Not too bad on this Friday. We will wrap up your pinpoint traffic coming up at 9 o'clock. Again, if you missed it earlier, we are awaiting a news conference this morning around 9 o'clock from the FBI on the reported capture of a suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination. And his murder is now leading to a rise in strong and even in some cases hateful political statements on social media. Several people, even here in the Carolinas, are either losing their jobs or being placed on leave because of posts they've made. As Queen City News reporter Caroline Boyer reports, the Carolina Panthers organization is among those workplaces now in the spotlight.
One of the people fired was a communications coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. That person is said to have posted on Instagram, "Why are y'all sad? Your man said it was worth it," in reference to Charlie Kirk's death. The Panthers released a statement saying, in part, "The views expressed by our employees are their own and do not represent those of the Carolina Panthers. We do not condone violence of any kind."
Speech is free. People have fought for it. It's extremely free, but the consequences are not.
At least 2 teachers could also face consequences for similar online comments about Kirk, who was killed on Wednesday while speaking to Utah college students. A Lake Norman Charter High School math teacher is on administrative leave until school leaders can investigate what they call a hateful and highly offensive sentiment. And a Gaston County teacher is under fire for her alleged comment, prompting district leaders to release a statement saying the board members are investigating. District officials say they train their employees about about professional conduct and plan to offer more training on the use of social media.
So if you do something that diminishes the brand of the company, that would be cost enough for a company to say, you know what, we're going to part ways with you.
We asked the experts if and how free speech plays a role in all this. The short answer, it doesn't.
There is no constitutional protection when your private employer tells you that you cannot speak or sanctions you for something that you said in social media or in a protest somewhere.
The First Amendment mainly protects speech in the public space. It's meant to prevent the government from limiting your speech, but not necessarily private companies. In Charlotte, Caroline Boyer, Queen City News.
Colleges in the Carolinas are holding vigils for Charlie Kirk since he was a regular speaker at campuses all across the country. That included a vigil last night at NC State University in Raleigh, organized by members of Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA. This is video here of students headed to the vigil, which was not open to the media. Before the ceremony, students talked about the impact that Kirk had on conversations among college students.
Whether you're on the right or the left, I think it's important to say that, political violence is always a bad thing. Terrorism is always a bad thing, and that if we can unite over that, then going forward, that's just a better thing than letting it divide us.
Last night's gathering had already been planned as a 9/11 commemoration event, but that plan was altered after what happened in Utah on Wednesday. Lawmakers in Washington are calling for an end to political violence as they mourn the loss of Charlie Kirk. And at the White House, President Trump says he is planning to award Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Our Washington correspondent, Maddie Beer-Temple, reports.
Lawmakers from across the aisle say they're shaken by this shooting and the country needs to dial down its political rhetoric. Members of Congress, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, are remembering Charlie Kirk.
That was his legacy, is that he believed in that. He loved vigorous debate.
The conservative activist was fatally shot while speaking at a college in Utah Wednesday. Investigators are calling it a political assassination. Kirk leaves behind his wife and 2 young children.
He loved to fill the free marketplace of ideas with conservative thought and argument, but he never hated anybody on the other side of the argument. He loved them. He was motivated by that.
Kirk was a friend and follower of President Trump. Many conservatives credit him for mobilizing young Republicans with the organization he started at 18, Turning Point USA.
And there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth.
President Trump says Kirk will get the nation's highest civilian honor.
I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
His death comes among a string of recent political violence, including the shooting of 2 Democratic state lawmakers in Minnesota, and last year, the attempts on President Trump's life. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer condemned political violence.
No matter your political views, yesterday's attack was heinous, cowardly, and ought to make everyone sick to their stomachs.
Vice President J.D. Vance went to Utah to meet with Kirk's family and fly with his casket to Arizona on Air Force 2. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beer-Temple.
Now this morning, we have more information about a promise of help for Helene victims. That is still coming up here this morning in just a bit. One student is released from the hospital after a school shooting in Colorado. The second victim still in critical condition. Now, officers say they responded to the shooting at Evergreen High School within 2 minutes of getting the calls Wednesday and made contact with the shooter within just 5 minutes. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office says the suspect fired multiple rounds throughout the school and grounds.
Probably the most important thing I can tell you today is that the students and the staff at the school were amazing. They did their job, they did it well, and lives were saved yesterday because of the actions they took during their lockdown drill. We know that the suspect had a handgun. He had to keep reloading. He would fire and reload, fire and reload, fire and reload. This went on and on. And as he did that, he tried to find new targets.
Investigators say that the shooter was radicalized by an unspecified online, quote, extremist network. A member of the Charlotte City Council is demanding a recount after her razor-thin loss in this week's primary election. Democrat Marjorie Molina of District 5 posted on social media that she has filed the paperwork for a recount. Molina lost to challenger Juan Diego Maziera Arias on Tuesday by just 37 votes in that race. In her post, Melina says she wants to make sure that every vote is honored and that every voice is heard. We have reached out to the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections about a possible timeline for that recount, and we are waiting to hear back. Time's 8:41. Still to come this morning, there is a promise of help for Helene victims. Finally, at long last, we're going to tell you what President Trump has pledged. And we're going to take you live to LoSo, or Lower South End, for one of this weekend's big-time happenings. Mecktoberfest kicks off today. We'll be back. It is 8:44. We are continuing to update our breaking news this morning. We're still awaiting a news conference from the FBI on the reported capture of a suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination. The president went on Fox and Friends earlier this morning and said that with a great degree of certainty that a suspect is in custody. Again, still waiting for official word by the FBI and other local law enforcement investigators, saying there could be a press conference around 9 o'clock this morning. The story is continuing to develop this morning. As soon as we learn more, we will update you here on air and online at qcnews.com.
But that moment when he sat down at the counter and only wanted to be served just really sticks with me as a memorable moment in the history of Greensboro.
People gather to say their goodbyes to civil rights icon Joseph McNeil. A memorial was held yesterday at North Carolina A&T University. McNeil was one of 4 freshmen that sat down at a whites-only counter in Greensboro, Woolworths back in 1960. And that movement started so much more, which became a huge part of the civil rights era all across the country. McNeil died last week at the age of 83. The theme of his service was a lifetime of courage. People reflected not just on his sit-in, but also a distinguished military career, which really began after he graduated from A&T with a degree in engineering physics. McNeil logged more than 6,600 flight hours in the Air Force before retiring in 2000 as a major general. But those who knew him best remembered him as a loving father. His son, Joseph McNeil Jr., shared about the moments just before his father's death.
He was holding on to hear from Ina May. It's okay. my husband, you can leave now. We're going to be okay. And I would watch my mother say those words to him. It moved a mountain in her heart to do so.
Yeah.
Because those two, nearly 60 years of marriage, of standing side by side.
And this was not the final celebration of McNeil's life. A viewing will be held in Wilmington today, and a funeral service will then happen tomorrow. McNeil will be buried in Wilmington, which is also where he was born. And then tomorrow, flags throughout North Carolina will fly at half staff in his honor. More federal relief is on the way for recovery following Hurricane Helene and Tropical Storm Chantal. Governor Josh Stein posted on X that he spoke with President Trump, who pledged his support for Tropical Storm Chantal and Hurricane Helene recovery. Stein went on to say, quote, "I look forward to working with the administration to deliver critical resources to North Carolina. Let's get it done." Also, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality announced a $10 million home repair weatherization readiness program. The funding will supplement North Carolina's existing weatherization assistance program, helping counties damaged by Hurricane Helene recover. The program's goal is to serve more than 575 households. In Lincoln County this morning, the fire marshal says the South Fork Volunteer Fire Department is now up to date with its records. It had nearly been in breach of contract for improperly reporting its fire responses. Queen City News reporter Shakira Speaks asked the marshal how long it could take for the department to be returned to a good standing status.
Lincoln County Fire Marshal Rodney Emmett told me off camera that the South Fork Fire Department's 30-day notice could be lifted early as soon as they send him a written letter detailing the plans that they have to improve the department. He placed the department on a 30-day notice for improper reporting and needed improvements to response times. The marshal's notice happened after firefighters responded to a house fire on Windmill Lane in July that killed 2 people. Crews got to the home about 16 minutes after the call came in. Marshal Emmett says there's no set minimum time, but 16 minutes is way too long. His notice also claimed the department was missing several fire reports from 2024. Fire reports are supposed to be sent quarterly. Now, South Fork is up to date with its reports.
Notifications automatically uploading of reports to the fire marshal or the services is done automatically, and it's a lot more attention on it. We've opened up our shifts. Also, our night shift is a 12-hour shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Before it was a single firefighter on staff at the time. We've opened up that to 2 firefighters on staff so that we've doubled the effort getting out the door, getting there appropriately. And in the meantime, the volunteer staff is coming, grabbing a second apparatus and arriving on scene more quickly.
Board Chairman Mays says the department wants to be better for the community, and they will be. He says the plans that they have in place will continue to improve their performance. For now, reporting in Lincoln County, Shakira Speaks, Queen City News.
It is 8:49. We've enjoyed the weather all week, and guess what? We're just going to keep it going. It's almost like Ted and Mother Nature said, copy, paste, what is it, Control V?
Control C, Control V.
There we go, there we go. It's been a minute.
Oh, it's all good, all good. I got all those hacks. Control X is how you cut it. And then
I don't want to do that. Let's not cut it. Let's paste it. Yeah.
Exactly. Those temperatures sitting in the low 60s, winds are calm. I said cut it, and I just thought of that song. Them temperatures way too high, you need to cut it. And that's what Mother Nature did. As we have those upper 50s. Shout out to Emily in my ear. Now I have the cut it out stuck in my head from Full House. And now we are looking at those 60s. We're not cutting those temperatures at all. We're going to continue to ramp them up. Mid-60s, Gastonia, Charlotte into Monroe. Low 60s, I-40 corridor. 40s into the 50s through our mountain counties. Lots of sun continuing to dominate as we get into your later morning, early afternoon. Upper 70s today. We'll get back into the low 80s heading into that 3 o'clock hour, but I think highs peak in the mid 80s, which will match our average high for this time of year. We'll start the weekend off 83 degrees, mid 80s Sunday into your Monday, cooling back down Tuesday and Wednesday as mostly clear skies continue to dominate. Moving that clock into motion, We'll have a few pop-up clouds roll through as high pressure leaks south from our north, giving us winds out of the east on Saturday. We'll stay nice and warm for Saturday afternoon. A little bit more cloud cover on Sunday, but more dry than wet. Overnight lows bottom out in the upper 50s, low 50s. Mountain counties will rebound into what will be those 80s through the weekend, early next week. Rain chances come back Wednesday afternoon. You're watching Queen City News Now, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. Shout out to our MVPs in the back. I see Emily, I see Dawn, I see Evan. Tammy, say what up to the people. Enjoy the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back.
It is 8:54. We continue to update the breaking news this morning. We're still waiting on a news conference from the FBI on the reported capture of a suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination. We heard originally around 9 o'clock. Now it's been set for around 9:30. You can see live here at the podium. This is still in Utah, as I'm sure we will hear again from FBI, from local law enforcement. Now, President Trump earlier was on Fox and Friends this morning, and he said with great certainty they have the suspect in custody. We are still waiting for official word again from the FBI and other law enforcement investigators as this continues to develop. We'll be waiting on that press conference probably around 9:30. Keep it right here on Queen City News or online at qcnews.com. Still to come this weekend, Oktoberfest at Carowinds is going to be kicking off this weekend. Perfect weather for that. They're going to have live performances, premium quality beer, authentic German food, probably pretzels and brats. Activities for the whole family. It's going to take place Saturdays and Sundays starting tomorrow through November the 23rd. Carowinds has more information about their ticket prices on their website. And the first of 4 weekends of Mechtoberfest kicks off today in Loso. That is Lower South End. You're looking at a live shot outside of O&B Brewing, Old Mecklenburg Brewing. Our Trevor Beck photojournalist has been out there, probably waiting on the first beverage. That is after he gets off work, by the way. Don't anyone send him an email. There's going to be German cuisine out there, music, beer garden games. What a great weekend for this award-winning brew and festival to take place. So there you have it. Stay with us. You're watching Queen City News on this Friday.